Be me, Elliot. Just a regular guy in his late 20s. Work as some kind of analyst in a decently sized company. Not a dream job, but it pays the bills, and the work is moderately interesting. The office environment was, for the longest time, totally normal. People came in, did their jobs, complained about the coffee, and went home. We had a good team, a mix of guys and girls, all different ages. The unspoken rule was simple. If something needs doing, whoever is available and able lends a hand. Need to move a desk for the new hire? 2 or 3 people just get up and do it. A big shipment of printer paper arrives. Whoever is near the door helps the delivery guy. No drama, no politics, just simple, logical cooperation. My closest work buddy is Jerry. He's a guy in his 50s, probably ex-military or something. Has that no-nonsense vibe. Seen it all, done it all, and has a bottomless well of sarcastic comments for every corporate initiative. He's the kind of guy who calls team-building exercises management-mandated friendship simulations. But he's solid. If you need help with a project or your car won't start, he's the first one there. For years, this was the comfortable reality, a stable, predictable, and functional workplace. Then our old manager retired. We all liked him. He was a simple, old-school guy named Frank. His management philosophy was, get your work done and don't cause trouble. We threw him a nice little party, got him a gift card for a hardware store, and wished him well. For a few weeks, we were managerless. It was bliss. Productivity probably went up. Then the email landed in our inboxes. Subject: announcing your new department head. We all gather in the main conference room. In walks Mr. George, the big director for our whole division. And with him is our new manager. Her name is Bella. She looked like she just walked out of a corporate stock photo. That kind of relentlessly positive, yet somehow aggressive energy. Mr. George gives the standard introduction. Bella comes to us with a wealth of experience, and we're excited to see the new direction she takes the team. Then he leaves, and it's just us and her. The vibe in the room changes instantly. She starts with a speech. It's a masterclass in corporate buzzwords. She talks about synergizing our verticals, leveraging our core competencies, and fostering a paradigm of inclusive excellence. I swear she didn't say a single concrete thing for 10 straight minutes. I glance over at Jerry. He's staring at her with the blank expression of a man trying to calculate how many sick days he has left until retirement. My first impression is that she's just another corporate climber, more interested in jargon than results. Oh, how I underestimated the situation. The first week is mostly her observing our workflow, which means she walks around with a tablet, making notes, and looking at us like we're an ant farm. She schedules one-on-one meetings with everyone. My meeting is weird. She doesn't ask much about my actual work. It's all questions like, how do you feel the power dynamics in the office manifest? And, do you feel your voice is heard as a male-identifying employee? I just give vague, professional answers, trying to end the meeting as fast as possible. I tell her the team works well together, and everyone pulls their weight. Her expression when I say this is strange, almost like she's disappointed, like she was hoping for some juicy drama to solve. At the end of the second week, she calls a mandatory team meeting. She stands at the front of the room with a PowerPoint presentation ready. The first slide just says, "Moving forward together." Jerry whispers to me, "That's corporate speak for things are about to get worse." He was not wrong. Bella starts talking about her observations. She says she's noticed a subtle but pervasive undercurrent of patriarchal structure in our department. A few people shift uncomfortably in their seats. She says she saw one of the female employees, a perfectly capable woman in her 30s, help 2 guys carry a heavy box of old files to storage. Bella says this was a learning opportunity for the whole team. She explains that society has conditioned women to be helpful and to take on physical burdens, while men are conditioned to accept this help without question. I'm just sitting there, thinking about all the times I've seen women and men help each other without a second thought. It wasn't about gender, it was about getting a task done efficiently. But in Bella's world, it was a scene from a historical drama about oppression. Then she drops the bomb, her new policy. To actively dismantle these ingrained structures and create a truly equitable workspace, she is instituting a new rule. From this day forward, any and all tasks involving physical lifting, carrying, moving, or assembly are to be performed exclusively by the male employees of the department. A dead silence falls over the room. You could have heard a pin drop on the industrial-grade carpet. She's beaming like she just handed down the Gettysburg Address. She clarifies what this includes: changing the water cooler bottle, bringing in the weekly paper delivery, moving furniture for office rearrangements, assembling new chairs, anything. Her reasoning? This will unburden the female employees from the unspoken expectation that they perform physical labor. It will also give the men an opportunity to step up and consciously perform the role of provider in a non-toxic way. I look around the room. The guys are all staring in disbelief. The women look incredibly awkward. A couple of them look genuinely embarrassed. One of the older female accountants, a super nice lady who has been with the company for 20 years, looks like she wants the floor to swallow her whole. Bella asks if there are any questions. Nobody says a word. It's the kind of silence that's so heavy, it feels like a physical weight. What could we even say? Any objection would immediately be framed as a refusal to help our female colleagues. It was a perfectly designed trap. Bella takes our silence as enthusiastic agreement. Wonderful, she says, clapping her hands together. I'm so glad we're all on board with creating a more progressive future for this department. The meeting ends. We all shuffle back to our desks like zombies. The first test of the New World Order comes the very next day. The big water bottle on the cooler is empty. It sits there all morning. People walk by it, look at it, and then walk away. Before, whoever noticed it and had a free minute would just swap it out. Now it's a political statement. Around 11 a.m., Bella walks out of her office. She sees the empty cooler. She scans the room, her eyes landing on me and another guy, a junior programmer who looks like he weighs 150 pounds, soaking wet. She points at the cooler. "Gentlemen, could one of you handle this, please?" Her tone is sickly sweet. I get up, go to the storage closet, grab a new bottle, and haul it back. As I'm wrestling the new bottle into place, I can feel every eye in the office on me. It feels less like helping out and more like a performative demonstration. I finish, and Bella gives me a theatrical smile and says, "Thank you, Elliot. I appreciate you stepping up." I just nod and go back to my desk, feeling ridiculous. This was just the beginning. A few days later, the big weekly shipment of printer paper arrives. It's about 10 heavy boxes. Normally, the delivery guy would wheel it in, and a couple of us, guys or girls, would help him unload it into the supply closet quickly. This time, the delivery guy arrives at the front desk. Bella personally walks out to meet him. Then she walks over to our section. Jerry, Elliot, and, she points to a random guy from marketing. "You, the paper is here. We have to stop what we're doing." I was in the middle of reconciling a huge data set. We go to the front. The delivery guy looks impatient. The three of us have to make multiple trips, hauling these heavy, awkward boxes all the way to the back of the office. The women on our team are at their desks, trying their best to look busy and not make eye contact with us. It's a whole new level of awkward. It's not that the work is impossible. It's the principle of it. It's inefficient. It takes three of us away from our actual skilled jobs to do unskilled manual labor. And it's demeaning. Not because lifting is demeaning, but because the reason behind it is so absurd. We are being treated like a designated caste of laborers. Jerry is getting visibly annoyed. He's an older guy, and while he's in decent shape, you can tell hauling those boxes isn't great for his back. After we're done, he leans over to my desk. "You know," he says, keeping his voice low, "for a policy that's supposed to fight stereotypes, It's doing a great job of reinforcing the one about men being mules. The situation escalates. Our company decided to replace all our old office chairs. A massive delivery of flat-packed boxes arrives, dozens of them. Bella announces that assembling the new chairs will be a male team-building exercise. So, for an entire afternoon, all the men in the department are taken off their projects. We are in the conference room with Allen keys and confusing Swedish instructions, putting together chairs. Meanwhile, the women are expected to continue working, hitting their deadlines. The productivity of the department takes a nosedive. Projects start falling behind schedule. When Mr. George sends an email asking for a status update on a big account I'm on, Bella replies and says my part is slightly delayed due to internal resource reallocation. She's literally creating a problem and then using corporate jargon to cover her tracks. The breaking point for me comes a week later. We have to completely rearrange the office layout for a new team that's being moved into our space. This means moving about a dozen heavy desks, filing cabinets, and shelving units. Bella puts out a schedule. All the men are required to stay late on a Thursday to do the moving. No extra pay, of course. It's just part of our role. We spend 3 hours after our normal workday, sweating and hauling heavy, awkward furniture. Jerry actually pulls a muscle in his shoulder. He's trying to hide it, but I can see him wincing every time he lifts something. That night, I go home completely fed up. This isn't about equality, it's about control. It's a power trip disguised as social justice. She has segregated her own department into 2 classes, the thinkers and the lifters. The next day, I decide to talk to the other guys. I catch Jerry by the coffee machine. He's moving his arm gingerly. I ask him how he's feeling. Peachy, he says with his usual sarcasm. I've always wanted to experience the joys of being an unpaid mover. I tell him this has gone too far. It's affecting our work, our morale, and now our physical health. I suggest we need to do something. Jerry just looks at me. And do what exactly? Complain? We'll be labeled as misogynists who don't want to help. She's got us in a corner. I tell him he's right. We can't complain, but we can be logical. During lunch, I get all the guys together in one of the empty meeting rooms. There are about 8 of us. The mood is grim. Everyone is angry. One of the younger guys suggests we just refuse, flat out say no next time she asks. I explain that's a bad idea. It's insubordination. It'll go on our records and she'll win. Another guy suggests going to HR. We all have a laugh at that. Our HR department is known for being completely beholden to whatever the latest corporate trend is. They would take her side in a heartbeat. Then I lay out my plan. We can't fight her on ideological grounds, I say. We have to fight her on her own turf, corporate policy and logistics. I tell them we should stop seeing this as a social issue and start seeing it as a contractual one. None of us were hired to be furniture movers or delivery men, I explain. Our job descriptions list our professional duties. This is extra. I can see a spark of interest in their eyes. This is skilled labor, I continue, pointing at my head, and that is unskilled physical labor. I gesture towards the main office. When a company asks an employee to take on significant duties outside their job description, there are procedures for that. It involves a title change or, more commonly, additional compensation. Jerry starts to smile, a slow, cunning smile. He sees where I'm going. So he says, we're not refusing to do the work, we're just asking to be paid for it. Exactly. We can't be accused of being uncooperative. We are cooperating fully. We are simply asking that the company recognize this new, physically demanding part of our jobs with fair compensation. We would be framing our request in the language of pure, cold, corporate bureaucracy. The language of money. The one language that people like Mr. George definitely understand. The plan is met with unanimous approval. It's perfect. It's logical, professional, and it puts Bella in a box. If she agrees, She has to explain to upper management why she's increasing payroll for a problem she created. If she refuses, on what grounds can she do it? We are not refusing to work. We are asking to be paid for the work we are doing. Her refusal would be unreasonable and unprofessional. We decide that I will be the one to talk to her. I'm generally the most level-headed and least likely to get emotional. We spend the rest of our lunch hour drafting a formal email. It's a masterpiece of professional, passionless corporate speak. It politely outlines the new, regular, and physically demanding tasks that have been assigned to the male staff. It references the company's own policies about compensation for duties performed outside of one's official job description. It respectfully requests a meeting to discuss the implementation of an appropriate pay differential for the affected employees. We all agree on the wording. The plan is set. The next step is to confront the dragon in her cubicle-shaped lair. I wait until the next afternoon. I knock on the frame of her open office door. She looks up from her laptop with that familiar, forced smile. "Elliot, what can I do for you?" I ask if she has a moment to discuss a team matter. She gestures for me to come in and sit down. I keep my demeanor calm and professional, no hint of anger or frustration. I start by saying that the male members of the team are fully on board with her new initiatives. I see her smile widen. She thinks I'm here to praise her. Then I transition to the main point. I explain that, in the spirit of formalizing these new roles and responsibilities, we wanted to open a discussion about compensation. I calmly lay out the logic. We are now performing regular manual labor, which was not in our original job contracts. Therefore, we feel it's fair to adjust our pay to reflect these added duties. I watch her face as I speak. The smile doesn't just disappear. It feels like it shatters. Her eyes narrow. The friendly manager persona evaporates in an instant. There is a long, tense silence. She just stares at me. "Let me get this straight," she says, her voice dangerously low. "You want more money to help your female coworkers?" I calmly correct her. "No, we're asking for compensation for taking on regular manual labor duties that were not part of our hiring agreement." I emphasize the contractual nature of the request, keeping emotion out of it. This seems to make her even angrier. "This is unbelievable," she spits out. "This is exactly the kind of toxic transactional mindset I am trying to eliminate from this workplace." She stands up and starts pacing behind her desk. "I give you men an opportunity to show solidarity, to be allies, to do the right thing, and you try to monetize it. You're trying to profit from basic decency." Her voice is getting louder. People in the main office area are starting to look over. I remain seated and keep my voice steady. "With respect, Bella, this isn't about decency. It's about our employment contracts. We are happy to perform the duties. We just believe it's fair to be compensated for them, as per standard company policy." Mentioning policy was like throwing gasoline on a fire. "Policy?" She practically shrieks. "You want to talk about policy? How about the policy of being a decent human being? How about the policy of not undermining your female manager with greedy, bad faith arguments?" She's in full meltdown mode now. She accuses me of organizing a mutiny. She says this is a blatant example of male fragility and that we are weaponizing bureaucracy to resist a progressive agenda. She's just throwing out every single buzzword she can think of. I realize that a rational discussion is impossible. I stand up. "Okay, I can see you're not open to discussing this right now. Perhaps we can revisit this when you've had time to consider our position." I turn to leave. "Don't you walk away from me," she yells. "This is insubordination. I could have you all written up for this." I stop at the door and look back at her. "Written up for what? For politely requesting a meeting to discuss compensation? I don't think Mr. George would see that as a fireable offense." Mentioning her boss's name makes her face turn a shade of purple I've never seen before. She is speechless with rage. I walk out of her office and back to my desk. The entire office is pretending to be working, but the silence is electric. Everyone heard everything. Jerry gives me a subtle nod from across the room. I sit down at my computer, open my email, and attach the document we had drafted. I send it to her. I also, very discreetly, BCC Mr. George. The ball is in her court now. We've made our move professionally and by the book. The gauntlet has been thrown down. We have no idea what's coming next, but the quiet, normal days of our office are officially over. A war has begun. The rest of that day was the most tense I've ever experienced at a job. Bella stayed in her office with the door shut. No one dared to go near it. The atmosphere was thick enough to cut with a knife. All the guys on the team knew what had happened, and we communicated with silent nods and glances. The female colleagues just kept their heads down, clearly wanting to be as far from the blast radius as possible. I felt a strange sense of calm. We had made the right move. We hadn't been emotional or aggressive. We had used logic and professionalism as our weapons. Now, we just had to wait for the fallout. The next morning, I came in early. Bella was already there, which was unusual. She didn't say good morning. She just glared at me as I walked past her office. An hour into the workday, a new challenge arrived. An email from Building Services. The new server rack for the IT closet has been delivered to your department's reception area. Please ensure it is moved to its final location today. This thing was a beast. It wasn't just a box. It was a huge, heavy metal cabinet on a wooden pallet. It was easily a 4-person job, at minimum. It was also blocking a major walkway, creating a safety hazard. Bella came out of her office. She looked at the server rack. Then she looked directly at the male employees, one by one. Her eyes were full of challenge. This was it, the big test. Elliot, Jerry, she said, her voice dripping with venom. And you, get this moved now. She was pointing at 2 other guys from our group. This was the moment of truth. I took a deep breath. I stood up, but I didn't move towards the rack. Jerry and the other 2 guys followed my lead. We all just stood by our desks. Bella, I said, my voice perfectly level, we would be happy to move that. As soon as we've had the meeting to discuss the compensation for these tasks, as we requested in our email, her face went rigid. Move it now, she repeated, her voice shaking with rage. That is a direct order. Jerry, bless his sarcastic heart, chimed in. Is that a paid order? He asked, completely deadpan. A couple of people had to stifle a laugh. Bella looked like she was about to have an aneurysm. This is unbelievable. It's a safety hazard. You're creating a hostile work environment, she shrieked. I held my ground. We're not creating the hazard. We're simply waiting for our professional request to be addressed before we perform duties that are outside our job description and carry a risk of injury. She was trapped. Her own rule had created a situation she couldn't solve. She couldn't ask the women to move it. That would violate her own sacred policy. She couldn't force us to move it because we had a legitimate, documented labor dispute in progress. She stood there fuming, completely powerless. It was a beautiful sight. And then, as if summoned by the gods of workplace justice, Mr. George appeared. He was walking down the hall, probably on his way to a meeting. He stopped dead in his tracks when he saw the scene. A massive server rack blocking the hallway. A furious Bella and 4 male employees standing defiantly by their desks. What in the world is going on here? He asked, his voice booming through the silent office. Bella immediately snapped into victim mode. Mr. George, she said, rushing over to him. Thank goodness you're here. My male staff are refusing a direct order. They're being insubordinate and creating a safety issue. Mr. George looked from her to us, his expression unreadable. He looked at me. Elliot, what's your side of this? I walked over calmly. I wasn't nervous. The facts were on our side. "Mr. George," I said respectfully, "we haven't refused to do any work. Yesterday, we sent a formal request to Bella to discuss compensation for the regular manual labor duties she has assigned to us, as these are not in our employment contracts. She refused to discuss it. We are simply waiting for that official request to be addressed before we take on another such task." I saw a flicker of something in Mr. George's eyes. It might have been understanding. He's an old-school businessman. He understands contracts and money. "Bella," he said, turning to her, "did you receive a formal request from your staff about compensation?" She faltered. It was a ridiculous, bad-faith request meant to undermine me. "That's not what I asked," he cut her off, his voice sharp. "Did you or did you not receive the request?" "Yes, but... And have you addressed it?" He didn't wait for her to finish. He had heard enough. He pulled out his phone, made a quick call, and within 2 minutes, 2 guys from the building maintenance crew showed up with a dolly and moved the server rack. He had solved the immediate problem in 30 seconds. Then he turned back to us. "Bella, Elliot, my office, now." We walked to his big corner office in complete silence. He closed the door behind us. "All right," he said, sitting behind his massive desk. "Explain this to me from the beginning. And I want the simple version, not the HR-approved one." Bella started first, launching into a long tirade about patriarchal structures, male privilege, and our supposed plot to sabotage her leadership. Mr. George listened patiently, his face like stone. He didn't interrupt her once. When she was finished, he looked at me. "Elliot." I gave him the simple, factual version. I told him about the new policy, the mandatory lifting, the chair assembly, the late-night office move, Jerry's injury, and our decision to handle it through official channels by requesting a pay discussion. I emphasized that we never refused to help. We simply asked for the work to be recognized formally. When I finished, Mr. George leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. He was quiet for a long time. "Bella," he finally said, his voice dangerously calm, "did you at any point consider the legal ramifications of creating a policy that assigns specific duties to employees based solely on their gender?" Bella's face went pale. "It's not about gender, it's about equity," she started to say. "It is entirely about gender," he said, his voice like ice. "You created a segregated workforce. You opened this company up to a massive discrimination lawsuit. Not just from them," he gestured to me, "but from the female employees you supposedly unburdened, who could now argue they are being denied opportunities or experiences based on their sex." He let that sink in. "Furthermore," he continued, "you took skilled analysts and programmers off their revenue-generating projects to have them build chairs and haul paper. You single-handedly destroyed your department's productivity and put key accounts at risk. For what? To prove a point." She had no answer. She just stood there, looking at the floor. The final nail in the coffin was my email. "I was BCC'd on your request, Elliot," Mr. George said, looking at me. "It was professional, logical, and entirely reasonable. Bella, your response from what I've heard was neither." He then laid down the law. Her gender-based work policy was rescinded, effective immediately. She was to issue a formal written apology to the entire department for her misguided managerial experiment. She was receiving an official reprimand in her employee file, and she would be on probation for the next 6 months. Any further issues, and she would be terminated. He looked at me. "Elliot, your request for a compensation discussion is now moot, as the duties have been rescinded. You and your team are expected to go back to the way things were. A team that helps each other out, regardless of what's in their job description. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir," I said. "That's all we ever wanted." "Good," he said. "Now both of you get out of my office." The walk back to the department was the most awkward walk of my life. Bella didn't say a word. She looked completely defeated. As soon as we stepped back into the main office area, everyone could tell what happened just by looking at our faces. Bella went straight into her office and shut the door. An hour later, we all received an email from her. It was the most forced, insincere apology I've ever read, full of corporate jargon about learning experiences and realigning our departmental mission. But it didn't matter. We had won. The policy was dead. In the days that followed, the office dynamic shifted back to normal, with one major change. Bella had zero authority. No one respected her. No one feared her. She was just a person in an office who signed off on timesheets. Her power was gone, and she knew it. About a week later, the water cooler was empty again. One of the younger women on the team, a graphic designer, looked at it, then looked over at me and Jerry. She hesitated for a second, then walked over. "Hey, Elliot," she said a little nervously, Could one of you guys give me a hand with this?" Before I could even answer, Jerry stood up with a grin. "Sure," he said, "but it'll cost you." The woman's face fell for a second before she saw he was joking. We all laughed. It was a real, genuine laugh, the first one we'd had in weeks. Jerry and I went and changed the bottle together, and just like that, the balance was restored. It wasn't about men or women. It was about people working together using common sense. Bella lasted another 2 months. She eventually transferred to a different branch, probably for a fresh start. We weren't sad to see her go. The whole ordeal taught me a valuable lesson. Sometimes the craziest, most illogical ideas can take hold in a corporate environment, and you can't fight them with emotion or anger. You have to fight them with their own weapons: logic, procedure, and the cold, hard language of the rules they claim to follow. We didn't throw a punch. We just filled out the paperwork correctly, and it worked.